welcome to the Vet with Pets podcast. I'm Elliot.
I'm Becky.
And before we forget, sponsored by Vets with Pets Hereford.
Yeah, and this is Dougie.
And this is Dougie, our special guest today. Dougie's probably not going to say a lot, but for anyone who hasn't found us on YouTube yet, you'll be able to see him on there once we get it uploaded, won't you, Dougie? So Dougie, if you've been following the rest of the socials, is our little kid that's being hand-reared at the moment. So his mum, Buttons, was one of my goats who had Yoni's disease. So she was unfortunately taken to the abattoir, I don't know, 10 days or so ago now, which is rubbish. But Dougie is her kid, so he was kindly kidded by Emily, so she was there at the time and essentially pulled him straight out so he didn't touch the floor. And he's been hand-reared since then, which means that there shouldn't be any risk of him picking up the Yoni syndrome. He should be clear. And as soon as he's sort of old enough, we'll start doing a bit of testing to make sure that's the case. But this week he moved up with the rest of the goats, actually. So he had been living in the shed with Mickey. Yeah.
Because they didn't like him quite to start with, did they?
No, so we tried putting him with Esther and her kids just on the off chance, because she hadn't long kidded. We thought she might adopt him, but she wasn't interested. And she's already got 2. And then Carol, I'm still hopeful Carol might have babies in there. She's not produced anything. So she was due on Saturday last week. So what we'll do is we'll give her another 2 weeks, because then the cycle's 3 weeks or thereabouts.
Oh, okay.
So if we go forward 3 weeks from her due date and she's still not had any kids, then we know that she's probably empty. Yeah, but it's weird because she was definitely mated and didn't come back on cycling. And was with Gizmo the whole time.
And it was the same stud as
same. Yeah, exactly. So we know he's fertile, but we'll see. But Dougie keeps us busy, don't you, Dougie?
He's going to keep us busy today because he's staying for the day.
Emily's out for the day, so you've come in so you can have your bottles.
Elliott's brought quite the menagerie in today.
Brought a job lot in today, haven't I?
Yeah, get them all done in one go.
Well, I thought most Sundays I don't have a lunch break booked, whereas I've still got a lunch break today. So I thought, well, there's a chance we'll get stuff done.
We'll fit in as much as we can. So we've got Bubbles the tortoise to get some blood from.
Yeah, so Bubbles due his routine bloods, so he has bloods once a year because he's got mild kidney issues. And then we've got Priscilla, the garden hedgehog, so she's come in just for a health check. She's not eating as much as I think she should do. And she woke up really late from hibernation. She woke up a few times during the winter and had a snack. But it's only the last 2 days that she's been properly eating, which is later than what she normally is.
Yeah, it's not like her.
But then it is still quite cold at night. It's frosty at home
it's
this
warm
morning.
in the morning, but not at night.
Yeah, it's quite a frost this morning again. So, yep. And then I've got Rose, who's coming with her daughter, Kelly, as well. But Rose has got a urinary stone that I can feel right in the end of her urethra.
So hopefully you're going to anaesthetise her and pop that out.
Yeah, that's the plan. And then we've got an inpatient as well. I've got little Tilly the tortoise, who's been coming home with me, what day we say? It was Sunday day since Monday.
Yeah.
So she's really poorly.
She's been having intensive nursing care, hasn't she? Really?
Yeah, so she's been
therapy
having
every hour.
Yeah. Although she is now having just about strong enough to have baths, and she had another good drink in the bath this morning. But she did regurgitate some of her food last night. So
but she's only just gone on to 2 feet, hasn't she?
Yes, yeah. So I haven't fed her this morning, and I'll probably leave it till this evening, give her a smaller feed
really
again.
Needed to do a poo, I suppose.
Yep.
Bless her. And we thought we'd talk about tortoises today because we've had so many tortoises in since they're either waking up from hibernation or ones that don't hibernate and aren't quite warm enough is the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we've had right down from tiny ones up to a 25 kilo tortoise.
Well, I think he was 22.2 when he came in, and then when he was rehydrated and fed a bit, he went up to 25, didn't he?
Yeah, George. So we thought we'd go through keeping
A
tortoises.
tortoise-orientated podcast and other miscellaneous things, like Dougie. Dougie's due a feed at 10 o'clock, isn't he? So
so we'll give him a feed.
Keeping my eye on the clock, yeah.
He's trying to tell us he's hungry already.
Yeah. Naughty, aren't you?
You can wait a little bit longer.
Do you want to have a cuddle? Looking tired now. He normally naps around this time, and he'll wake up for a feed.
So you've woke him up early?
Well, he gets fed, and then he just goes to sleep for a while, and then has another feed, exercises a bit, and then that's your routine.
It's a life, isn't it?
Well, he's still quite a baby, really, although he's quite big.
Although he's big.
Aren't you? Hey? So tortoises then.
Yeah. So should we go through the common ones we see, the common species?
Yeah.
So it's mainly the two types, although we do see, we'll talk about sulcatas as well. So the main type, I think, is the Mediterranean tortoises that we see.
Yeah, well, I'd say the main species are probably Hermann's tortoise and Horsfield tortoise. Would probably be the most commonly purchased pets tortoises nowadays. Yes. We do then see some of the sort of more like Greek tortoises, like Torty, my old boy. So he would be a Greek tortoise that would have been imported back in like the 70s. Yeah. So there's still some of those older ones. You can still get them as pets, and I'd probably rate them over the other tortoise species.
I like them, yeah.
They're just a nicer tortoise.
Don't tell Bubble as well. Yeah, don't tell Bubble. And then we see some of the spur-thighed tortoises, don't we?
Yes, so they're like the Mediterranean Greek type
Greek
ones.
Tortoises, and then marginated tortoise is the other one I've got on our list. So those the Hermann's, the spur-thighed, and the marginated are the Mediterranean type tortoises, and the Horsfield, sometimes they're called a Russian tortoise as well. Yes, so the Russian tortoise probably is, because it does go down colder where they live, is probably better for our climate. They still need the heat in the day, probably more. Whereas the sulcata, which is an African tortoise, which are the really big tortoises, which George was that we were talking about, the 25 kilo one, they do need to be really warm all year round and don't hibernate.
Well, you need to be replicating like an African savanna sort of environment, so which is, I think, fairly obviously difficult.
Yeah, especially with such
a big tortoise. I don't like using the word obvious too often, but yeah. You're hungry, Dougie.
And with such a big tortoise, you're having to create that heat over a very large area.
You are, yes.
So or getting them really hot, having somewhere where you can get them really hot to start with.
Oh, I'm going to move chairs. Dougie wants to come on my lap. So, you need to have an area which is large and is really warm. And occasionally, actually, I suppose in other tortoise species, we'll occasionally see leopard tortoises, which is similar to sulcatas, really. They need the same sort of environment and setup. And then redfoot tortoises, which are different to all of these guys, really, in that they tend to need a higher humidity. They'll have a higher sort of protein and fruit content in the diet as well.
And that's the other thing we see, isn't it, not getting the diet correct, because again it can be hard, because especially, I've been to Athens and watched the Greek tortoises, and they're just grazing on like shrub and dried up areas of weeds, whereas quite often if they're in the house they're just given like fresh fruit and veg, which is ripe and watery and
too sugary.
Too sugary for them.
So I think if we look at some of the cases that we've seen this week, so we've had the big sulcata tortoise. So he's very well loved and he's a big part of the family. I think to the extent that they put up with him destroying the house and stuff like that. I think he's
caused big problems.
So I think he's again very well loved, but his issues most likely just stem from a few things just not being quite right in his environment. So again, he shouldn't hibernate and he should be active all year round.
Dougie's trying to eat the microphone.
So unfortunately, he hadn't eaten since sort of November time. And this is, we're just start of April now that we're recording this. So it's a long time for him to not have eaten, and just quiet for that whole period. And to be fair, for a lot of sulcata owners in the UK, they sort of perceive that as being
like
normal.
A breedmation sort of thing.
And I think to some extent, a healthy sulcata can cope, but it's not something that they want to be doing or that we want to be encouraging.
And I think this is something we see a lot with the tortoises, isn't it? That they're surviving, not thriving, is what we say. And it can take a long time we get a lot, we just used to keep our tortoise in the garden and it was fine, it lived for 50 years, but living isn't necessarily doing well and being healthy, and it can take a long time for the problems to come to a head, and then it takes a long time for us to fix them as well. Everything's slow.
And some of those tortoises, which, historically were just people would keep in the garden and not do anything with them.
And then they bury themselves during the winter.
Yeah, well, for every one of those tortoises that had existed in that sort of lucky set of situations or environmental parameters in that individual garden, there'd be countless thousands which were imported, which just perished. And I find a lot of the time you speak to older people that have just got new tortoises and they can remember having a tortoise in the garden.
Yeah, and how easy it was.
But then one winter they just didn't wake up.
Yeah.
Or they went and dug them up and it was just slop inside the shell rather than a tortoise.
Well, they can get attacked, can't they, by rats as well while they're hibernating.
Yes, So I think the ones we've seen, so we had George who hadn't eaten all that time, and either because of that or potentially it was why he wasn't eating, he then developed something called mouth rot, which does what it says on the tin. It's just an infection that affects the mouth, the nasal passages. Often
it can be really sore, can't it?
Yeah,
so it stops them eating.
Often the jaw, the eyes, the ears, and he's got this sort of smelly. You want food? I know. So it causes this smelly, horrible discharge in the mouth, and will start to eat away at the tissue and the bone.
Yeah.
So he was anaesthetised. We didn't realise this until we anaesthetised him.
No, because an owner wouldn't notice either, because you can't just open their mouth like a cat or a dog. He is incredibly strong.
Yeah, even when he's critically ill, and he is critically ill, still very strong. There's no way he can open his mouth.
There was 4 of us attempting to hold his head out to get blood, wasn't
sample.
there?
Yeah.
He's so strong.
Yeah. So with him, we anaesthetised him. We put a feeding tube in place, so that allows us to give medication and food like straight into his stomach through the side of the neck. And so we've taken swab samples from the mouth rot to see if we can diagnose what bugs are causing it.
And we can make sure we're giving the right medication. Yeah. But he started on liquid pain relief medication and some antibiotics through his tube. So he should be more, he is more comfortable. We've seen him back. The only thing was he was eating through the tube, being fed, but wasn't passing anything yet. So we said to stop that for a while. And then we got a lovely picture through on our WhatsApp of a nice big poo that he'd done. So hopefully he's on the way forward now.
Yeah, generally as soon as they start toileting, that's a really positive thing. So yeah, fingers crossed. And the other important thing is we've had a really good chat about correcting the environmental parameters, particularly temperature range is the main one.
And the thing with him was he's not the first home, is he? The first home he was with were feeding dog food and things like that. So he didn't have the best start to start with. So then those little changes that weren't quite right affected him more than they would have if he was healthy to begin with.
Yeah, and he's got a deformed shell and things like that. It's not terrible.
Which is we see quite often, don't we? The deformed shells, they can get what we call pyramiding of their shells from incorrect diet. Yeah,
Tucky. And then the other tortoise, so the little inpatient we've got is much, much smaller. So she came in at like 250 grams and then did a couple of massive wheeze and went down to 193 grams. And again, this was just a husbandry thing. Again, very well-loved little tortoise, but no measurement of temperatures in her enclosure, which is a vivarium, which probably also isn't recommended, and no ultraviolet light provision. And actually that's the same with George as well, no ultraviolet light.
Ultraviolet light, and it is so important.
Yeah.
If you think where they're coming from, either Africa or Greece, you're in the sun all the time. I think it's about, with the one I've got here, the Mediterranean, 12 hours a day, ideally, of sunlight. So compared to what we've been having in the UK.
Yeah, exactly.
If they're inside, they're not getting any because the UV doesn't travel through the windows. The type of UV that they need.
So UVB is absorbed by glass and plastic. So even if you've got your tortoise in a conservatory or something like that, and you perceive that they're having a lot of sunshine.
Or even a greenhouse, as some people do. They've got the warmth, but they haven't got the UV.
They haven't got the UV, no.
And then they need that for healthy bone, shell.
Yeah, so this is the same as us, really, in that UV light helps to regulate calcium levels within the body. And it's even more important for these guys. So without ultraviolet light, they're unable to maintain appropriate calcium levels, and you'll get bone deformities, you'll get immunosuppression, you get all sorts of other stuff. Yeah. And to be fair, often, if the calcium levels aren't correct, they've probably got multiple different vitamin deficiencies, as well as other mineral deficiencies as well.
And I think behaviourally, because if you think how we feel through the winter months, and as soon as the sun comes out, like now, you feel so much happier. And if they're meant to have it, it's sad.
So the little one that's been to and fro from home with me. So she's been having subcutaneous fluids. We'd like to place a feeding tube, but she's too unwell. She's too weak to really lift her head still at the moment. She's getting there. She's just about strong enough to start bathing her.
Yeah.
So we've been gavage feeding her, which is where you pass a metal tube through the mouth, down the neck, near to the stomach really, in tortoise size, and you can just syringe the
even
food
getting
in.
up to sort of a kilo size, it can be difficult to do that, can't it? Because of trying to open their beak, they're just so strong.
Yes, yeah.
But she's 150 grams?
Yeah, because she's a lot smaller,
and she's
it's
weaker.
achievable. Yeah. And then we've also had another tortoise with mouth rot as well. And this was a more interesting one because it is a species that should hibernate, but she'd never hibernated before and the owners hadn't encouraged her to. Whereas this year it seemed like she had just decided to hibernate.
Wanted to, yes.
And went to the corner of her enclosure for 8 weeks or so and was very quiet before they then decided to wake her up this last week and then realised that something wasn't quite right. So again, very well-loved tortoise.
Yeah.
I think pretty much all tortoises are so well loved.
Yes.
To be fair, people really care about them.
And I think people realise they're in it for the long haul now. I don't think that's as much of a problem. People do know that tortoises do live a long time.
Yeah.
It's just, and I think it's also where they buy them from. There isn't always the information.
It's not the correct advice. No, it's a real bugbear of mine. A lot of pet centres just don't give out the correct advice for a lot of these exotic animals.
Because I think it would put people off buying them, maybe, so they don't.
And to be fair, I mean, maybe we'll come on to the ethics of keeping them as pets in a bit, but to go back to this one, which had a hibernation, whereas it wasn't normal for her, it turned out that she's got quite severe mouth rot as well. So we started her on antibiotics, anti-inflammatories. We sent away a blood sample.
And is she the one that had the protozoa in her urine? Or was that Tilly? Yeah, it was.
Which one was it? Was that her? Yes, that was her. Yeah, that was her.
Because we were all going, because a lot of the nurses hadn't seen it before, so the student nurses and everyone was lining up at the microscope to have a look. Because they sort of whiz around under the microscope and look. Yeah.
So they're tiny little microscopic creatures that they'll live in healthy tortoises, but there was an excessive amount in this tortoise, but probably just because she hadn't been eating and hadn't been toileting.
So they just take over.
Yeah.
Whereas they get sort of flushed out periodically normally.
So we started her on antibiotics, anti-inflammatory pain relief. We've taken a blood sample. We've done some X-rays as well. I'll probably scan her this next week to check for eggs or follicles. And then we'll probably put a feeding tube in her. Because she's not critically ill yet, she's still very bright and has been drinking. We're just going to give them the antibiotics a few days to see if she does pick up. And also just so that we know that she is a little bit healthier before going for the anaesthetic.
And that's the other thing we should probably mention, medicating tortoises, like we've said, because you can't open their mouth easily, and if they're not eating, they do need injectable medication, so it's quite often that we're having to teach the owners to give injections under the skin or into the muscle. So that's something you just need to take into consideration, that you're not too squeamish with needles if you're taking on a reptile. Because it's quite often, they'll get a little lesson. But they do really well. Everyone's really nervous to start with, and then, they do really well.
People feel really proud when it's like a life skill unlocked when they've been injecting the tortoise.
Unless you get the diabetic owners and they're like, I've got this. Because they're used to doing it all the time. There's lots to think about.
And then there's another tortoise. I need to give these people a call actually. Been on my list to follow up, so apologies if they listen. It's another lovely Mediterranean spurtheye who had been very quiet. And again with her, didn't quite have the correct husbandry, had a little setup under the stairs, and does sort of go into like a torpor each winter, but not a proper hibernation, because it's not cool enough to just leave her under the stairs. And she wasn't eating, so we did some investigation. She's got lots of egg follicles inside, so her ovaries are very active, and there's lots of egg yolks essentially sitting in there. So the concern with her is that we think that may be making her unwell if those egg yolks are bad.
So although like chickens get.
The most recent update I've had is that she is now eating and stuff, but I need to have a proper catch up with them because it's likely that we'll end up spaying her to remove them.
I suppose that's the thing. It's always a long-term plan with tortoises. It isn't very often a quick fix, is it?
No.
So we have to go through cost because it can go on for some time. And your time management and being able to medicate them and put all these things in place, it can take a long time. like months sometimes.
Yeah, like the little one that's been to and fro with me. I had a decent chat with her owners yesterday just to work out what we're going to do, because she's so critically ill and just on his tube feeding and lots of TLC. And I said, well, it is an option for you to take her home, but they elected for her to stay with us for a bit longer, just because of the challenges with feeding and with managing her at home.
And if you're not medically trained,
feeding.
it is a lot.
It is a lot.
To take on.
Yeah, it is a lot. But fingers crossed, she's not deteriorating. She's sort of stable, hopefully slowly improving.
Yeah.
Just disappointed she regurgitates that food. But yeah. So yeah, it's been a couple of weeks of very sick tortoises.
Lots of tortoises.
Yeah. Which is what prompted me to bring Bubble in for his blood sample.
Yeah.
Because I upgraded, so he is still in a vivarium because our house is too cold for me to maintain a proper temperature range for him.
So we normally don't advise vivariums, do we? Because they can get respiratory infections more, because there's not as much air moving around. So it's normally a tortoise table, or for the larger ones, a whole room, or an insulated shed or something like that where they've got
or outside. Outside is the thing.
Yeah. But Bubble, because the house is too cold, and because he was so poorly to start with. He's got underlying, so the warmth has sort of taken precedence over the ventilation side.
And I've got 3 thermometers in there. So I've got a thermometer under the heat lamp, and I've got a thermometer in like the middle of the vivarium, and then I've got a thermometer at the coolest part of the vivarium, so I can make sure the temperature ranges are all correct.
Yeah.
But despite all being correct, he doesn't like his new vivarium, even though his old one he was far too big for.
He doesn't want to grow up. That's what it is.
I don't know. Every morning, he doesn't wake up on his own. I have to get him out, give him a bath. I don't bath him every day nowadays. He probably has a bath like 5 times a week. So a couple of days a week, I just get him out and put him under the lamp.
Yeah.
But yeah, he doesn't wake himself up.
Which he should do. He should wake himself up, take himself over to the heat lamp, warm himself up, and then be off to go for the day. Yeah. And I think that's what the thing with keeping tortoises. We say like the bad things and what to look out for, but they have got real character.
Oh, they are fantastic pets. They really are. They're really engaging. They're really intelligent.
They live a long time, which is nice.
They're quite sociable. But then I think the flip side of that, so the backstory with Bubble and why he ended up in our care is he had a lovely owner, very, very dedicated person who decided to get a tortoise because previously had guinea pigs, but just found it very traumatic when they were older and then eventually lost them. And so wanted something that would outlive them, really, was the nuts and bolts of it, because they didn't want something to die again. But person had some quite severe underlying mental health problems, which was part of the reason why it had been traumatic losing the guinea pigs. And Bubble, I think, came with some issues when they took him on. And they were doing a fantastic job at everything.
Yes.
Had him insured, doing all the medical investigation, everything, but it just got too much, and they just couldn't cope with the stress of keeping him.
Worrying about him.
Yeah, but then ended up in a situation that also couldn't face rehoming because felt such a burden of responsibility.
Yeah, who you send him to.
Of something which could live for decades and decades, of where he would end up, would he be passed around, that sort of thing. But then also couldn't cope with the thought of euthanasia, which is, of course, would be the alternative. So asked me if I would take him on. And I said yes, because, didn't have a tortoise at the time.
No.
Now we've ended up with Torty as well. So Torty, who's the old boy, his owner asked me a couple of years ago when he was unwell. When I say unwell, he damaged all the front of his shell.
Yeah, he's angry.
He's an angry
was self-inflicted injury.
He's an angry tortoise who would just go around the garden bashing rocks, bashing walls, bashing feet, whatever it is, with the front of his shell. Because he gets really like het up around mating.
Yeah, and they can be quite territorial, can't they? So anything that looks like the
he
shape
hates
of
trainers.
a tortoise.
Trainers he hates.
Yeah, that's one of his worst things.
Yeah, trainers he hates, although wellers he tries to mate with.
So he likes wellers, but doesn't like trainers.
So I had to repair the front of his shell, so we had to have like almost like you'd like do some body work on a car to sort of tidy it up. It was a bit like that. And his owner at the time, who was relatively elderly, said she didn't know what she would do with him when she passed away, because her family didn't really want him. they wanted him to go to somewhere responsible,
Yes.
but they didn't want him. So she asked if I would take him. I had a moment of weakness and said that, yeah, that'd be okay. And then, she unfortunately then had a stroke, but one of the things that she was able to say was Torty. Torty.
And she knew that he was looked after.
Yeah,
It's nice, isn't it?
So.
And he's happy.
Yeah, he's happy enough. He's in a slightly sort of halfway house at the moment. We've just got a slightly bodged set up inside with an indoor guinea pig cage with a heat lamp and stuff. So temperature ranges are all fine.
Yeah.
I would like it bigger, but now he goes out in the daytime.
Yeah.
So it's just for the mornings and the evenings and at night time.
He likes to go around scaring the other animals.
Yeah.
Creeping up on them.
Yeah, I'll put that video of him creeping up on Fern. He's such a monkey.
Was that on Instagram?
I haven't put it up
yet.
yet.
You haven't? Oh,
No,
you
I haven't
need
shared
to.
it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll just share it here.
Yeah,
and
look
then
out for
we'll
that.
put it on the YouTube video. Yes, but I've got all sorts of other jobs I need to get finished at home, and then hopefully a tortoise shed for the tortoises is on the cards. I might just buy an insulated refrigeration unit, because you can buy them quite cheaply. Like for the same price of a garden shed, you can buy like something the size of this room that's fully insulated, and it's designed to be refrigerated. So I sort of feel like
that would be really good.
that could be heatable.
Yeah.
But I just need to talk to Emily and see what she says, and find somewhere to put it as well.
Yeah, find somewhere to put it.
Because generally they're massive and white and ugly.
And it wouldn't rot or anything, would it?
No.
It wouldn't have the upkeep.
No, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because Dad's just fixed. We've got a Wendy house that the chickens can hang out in, and we keep all our bird food in. And one of the sides had rotten because I sillily decided to put some shelves up on the outside for the cats so they could climb up the outside and in through a hole. But that let the water in, so the whole side of it was rotten. And Dad nearly had a heart attack when he was looking at the price of wood. So that's probably why the sheds are so expensive.
Yeah, they're so expensive.
Yeah, I think it broke his heart. Even though we were paying for it.
I was going to say, surely you paid for it,
we were paying for it, but he didn't. He was just like, oh, I've got to shop around. I've got to keep shopping around. That's it, isn't it? They quite often you do end up building a sort of accommodation for them because there isn't that much on the market really that's appropriate or big enough.
And having mentioned all those unwell tortoises, like we've got some really well looked after tortoises.
Oh yeah, we do the hibernation
well.
checks, don't we, in sort of September, October time, and we'll do like fecal tests on them, blood tests if we need to, and then they come in and show us all their pictures of their accommodations. Yeah. It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've got a couple of very dedicated tortoise owners with sheds that are purpose built, and there's that one sulcata, I can't remember the name for the life of me, but I did a home visit because they wanted me to have a look at his setup.
Yes.
Because he's large, he'd be a similar size to George, like 20 plus kilos. Weirdly, he was adopted from a monk, but very strange backstory there. And he had a specially made, like a sort of an arc sort of shape. Part of it all fully insulated and lit and heated and stuff, and then part of it like greenhouse plastic sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So he had his own like sort of conservatory space, and then he had like a paddock that he'd go out into then when the weather was warm enough.
So cool.
But then one of the things we discussed with him is that the trouble is with the sulcatas is they're so strong, and he didn't like being inside, always wanted to be outside. But then there's times of the year where they would be letting him out because he's just trying to destroy the place, but actually it's too cool.
Yeah, and it's not the best thing for
and
him.
he doesn't necessarily realise that.
And I suppose that's where the food is, and he likes to graze. And that's the thing, isn't it? They spend a lot of their time grazing, which other tortoises can miss out on if they're indoors and just got their dish of food. They do miss out on that.
Yeah. I think behaviourally and physiologically it's what they're designed to do, is just
walk in and
browse
eating.
Nibble things off. And
they should be like on the go all the time, really. Whereas if they're indoors or even in a tortoise table, they haven't got that range that they've got to go on. And I was talking, wasn't I, when I visited Kenya, we went to somewhere that had a lot of tortoises that were come from the pet trade, so they'd been taken from the wild but had got to the airport and had been confiscated. And so they must have had 20, 30 tortoises of all different sizes just in a walled area. But obviously it was so warm there, they just had a big area where they didn't have to do any of this. They just wandered around. No. Yeah, it was lovely.
But then I think, similar to what we previously said on parrots and similar to some of the discussions we had at Wildside Exotics with species like tortoises, is that really I do sometimes question the ethics of these being sold as pets.
Yeah. And this is where it makes me think there should be a licence and minimum requirements, because even if there was a minimum requirement for having UV, it would help a lot of the tortoises we see.
Yeah, it would.
It doesn't. Yeah, ideally it would be more in depth, but they need to be correct temperature.
Then
correct
it's
UV.
policing that sort of stuff, isn't it? And the people that are gonna do it are already doing it.
Yeah.
I sort of think, for me, I think it's more looking at the fact that they're sold as pets.
Yes.
Full stop. Because they're super cute when they're babies.
Yeah,
like, they're
and
really
tiny.
cute, and they're tiny,
Yeah.
and
Even
really,
the sulcatas are tiny,
and they're really endearing, and they're just, I think, particularly as children's pets, they're just not really that appropriate.
No.
Aside from, we've got one client, actually, I think you've seen him as well, the one we've been worming, who the man has had him since he was a little boy.
Yes.
And then was looked after by his parents for a bit. His parents then passed away, and he's now looking after the tortoise.
He's inherited the tortoise.
Yes, but he can remember him from his childhood days.
He can remember him.
So, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some out there that have a really dedicated family that look after them for all the decades they need care for. But there's an awful lot more where it's not quite the case.
And that's the thing we see as well, don't we? The older ones that were, which isn't acceptable, but were wild caught, but it used to be allowed back in the day. They're so much healthier than the ones that we see bred.
Yeah, but then what you've got to remember is that, 70s was the peak of it, I believe. Thousands and thousands would have been imported, just like chucked in crates and just sent over all piled up. But they would have been the fittest of the fit tortoises. That they had survived hibernation right from a tiny age. They survived living off hardly any food. Like, survival of the fittest, they got there to that adult state, and then they'd be brought over here. So they're already like well equipped to survive.
Yes.
Whereas the young ones that you buy from pet shops or whatever, they just aren't equipped in the same way, and they need very specific circumstances to grow up healthily.
Yeah, and if when they've hatched, or even just during hatching, because quite often they're taken away, aren't they, and put in incubators and things. If that isn't quite right, the humidity's not quite right, and then
with the diet of the parents wasn't quite right.
Parents,
Or what some breeding facilities will do is they'll do double clutching, which is where tortoises would normally have like one breeding season a year and lay a clutch of eggs. But what they'll do is they'll condense spring, summer, autumn, winter into 6 months by controlling the environment. So they'll sort of get 2 breeding periods out of 1 calendar year.
But the whole point of having that long period in between naturally is for them to build up their calcium reserves and everything again after they've laid all those eggs, and there's just not enough time to...
Or, to be fair, a lot of the tortoises will be imported as well, legally nowadays, with a certificate. But they'll be bred abroad, brought over.
And you just don't know what conditions those are.
No, you don't know how they've been bred. You don't know how they've been transported. Yeah.
It's a lot to think about.
Yeah, there's an awful lot that goes on behind it as well. And they're hard work to get better.
Yes.
Hard work. Well, there was that one, it was Milo the tortoise.
Oh.
Bless you, Dougie. Milo, the girl, she... I don't know how long we had the tube in her for, so she had a stomach feeding tube in that was, I don't know, 8 weeks, maybe even longer. And the owners were diligently feeding at home and then gradually stopping the feeding as she was eating. Then she stopped eating again and picked up the feeding again and make sure temperatures are all correct. And it took a long time to get her right. And we still don't exactly know why she was unwell in the first place, other than there was mild things in the environment in the husbandry that weren't quite right.
And it really doesn't have to be much, does it?
No. The other thing we see a lot of is dog bites and stuff as well.
Yes, we do see
chewed up tortoises.
And even then, it's like a quick injury. So if that was a dog or a cat that had been bitten, within the week it would have healed over normally, unless it's an awful bite. But with a tortoise, it can take
months.
Months.
And sometimes repeat surgery over a few months.
So the shell's living, isn't it? That's what a lot of people don't realise. So if we're, like, quite often when it's had a dog bite, it is going to be painful. It can get infected.
Well, they can feel their shell.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it is painful for them. And part of that process is part of that shell is probably going to die or go necrotic. And you end up having to Dremel bits of it away, which then has to be done under
to sort of burr it off. Sometimes with the really dead stuff, we'll do it conscious, because if it's dead, it's not innervated.
No.
But and they can be, again, very tricky to get better.
Yeah, and we can't just get rid of the dead tissue and then fill it in straight away. You have to get rid of the tissue, get rid of the infection, and be sure you've got rid of all that infection before you fill it in. Otherwise, you're just like sort of causing an abscess, really, aren't you?
Yeah, you get infection, the bruise underneath, and then it'll just underrun other parts of the plastron or the carapace, so the upper and bottom of the shell.
So it can be multiple dressings coming in once or twice a week for quite a few weeks before you can even then even think about filling it in, really. It's a long haul.
Exactly. And you've got to have the right vet to help you with that as well, in that I think you've got to have someone who knows what it's going to take, knows what meds to give, appreciates that it's painful.
And what it looks like, so that you know when to start filling that back in, so you don't do it too early.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've had a frustrating advice email, been in touch a couple of times, not a patient of ours, a patient at another practice that they're looking after tortoise, and I gave some initial advice after the tortoise had its front legs chewed in hibernation by rats, probably. There was thought. And so I gave some advice, didn't hear anything back until the email back a couple of weeks later saying that it still didn't look right, and they finished the antibiotics, what should they do? And I was like, well, it's going to take months and months for that to heal. And you'll need to culture it and see what's growing there, because sometimes they'll grow some quite obscure bacteria on their skin and in wounds. And then potentially, need to take care of feeding and that sort of thing.
It's just meeting the owner's expectations, isn't it? And letting them know what they're in for as well. So.
And there's no point trying to cut cost.
No.
Is the other thing. No. Unfortunately.
It's either do everything or do nothing, really, isn't it, with them?
Yeah.
Which is why we place the feeding tubes as well. There's no point us just giving you some subcut fluids or giving one tube feed and then...
No, because
it just doesn't work.
Because they'll sort of limp on for maybe even a couple of months and they'll present back even more unwell.
Yeah.
So you sort of got to do a good job of it to get them right at the start. Yeah. But they're rewarding animals to treat, though, because they will recover from remarkable stuff.
It's like George, when we saw him back, he was trying to box us, or we were trying to give him some subcut fluids, and you're just like, he's better. There's no way I'm getting that. I couldn't even get it in, even though his legs are so big and there's so many places you could go. Yeah. Oh, he was just so strong. He was like, no, I'm not having this. And you could just see his personality coming back, and his eyes were brighter, and you can just tell.
Hopefully he'll continue to pick up.
Oh, I hope so.
I feel it's risky mentioning him on the podcast.
Oh, yeah. I feel like we jinx them.
It tends to be when we mention things on the podcast, it doesn't end well. But we mentioned loads of animals today, so they can't all die.
No. And he's just great. And so he came in, he stayed in, didn't he, Friday night, I think it was. So there weren't many of us here. So then the people coming in Saturday morning, we were like, oh, go and look what we've got in there. There's a massive tortoise stomping around.
No, bless him.
Yeah, he's nice. And he just looks like a dinosaur, doesn't he? It's just amazing. Yeah. He doesn't look real. Yeah,
and I think if anyone's got any tortoises or wants to ask any tortoise questions, then drop us an email or get in touch with us at work as well.
And we have care sheets for the most common ones, and we have hibernation.
I was thinking we need to update some of the care sheets.
I was thinking actually the branding and that and the pictures and things would be nice.
Yeah. But I'd far rather have a healthy tortoise booked in for a check so we can discuss all the husbandry stuff at an early stage and prevent any illness. Much easier than having to get them better. Yeah, definitely. When they're poorly, for sure.
But and we've got a hibernation care sheet that takes you through it step by step, doesn't it? And how to put them to sleep and how to wake them back up again. So that's really handy. Yeah. Because there's so much information out there about hibernation that's not
there's some very opinionated people, and I think for me, I would always aim to try and replicate what goes on in the wild, which is generally, if it's a species that's meant to hibernate, they hibernate.
Yeah. And we just make sure they haven't got any parasites before they do. Make sure we don't feed them for the right amount of time, because otherwise that food's just fermenting in their gut slowly, and any parasites will just take over while they're hibernating. So it's just making sure they're healthy before they sleep, isn't it?
Yeah. And then tend to recommend a fridge hibernation. Like Torty was in the fridge this winter. Which is weird.
It always seems weird, but it protects them from any like rats or anything that might attack them while they're asleep. You know where they are. You know they're at the right temperature.
Yeah, you know temperature range is easily monitored.
You can easily check them because you can just open the door and have a look.
Yeah.
So and a fridge isn't too expensive now if you want to buy a little a little drinks fridge.
Would always recommend a separate fridge, although Torty was on the top shelf and not a normal fridge. Probably should have been on the bottom shelf because,
Food hygiene.
food hygiene, but yeah, put him with the raw meat. No, not really. But the bottom shelf was slightly too cold, so he was on the top shelf.
So it's getting it right. I never even thought that there would be different temperatures in the
Tortoise
fridge.
takes priority. Yeah, I put him in and then checked the following day, and it was like 2 degrees. I had a bit of a panic, so I put him to the top of the fridge, where it then stayed somewhere around like 4 to 6 degrees.
And you're checking on him every day.
Every day, yeah.
And that's the thing with a fridge; you just have to let some oxygen in as well, don't you?
Yeah.
So it's
But even if you're opening the door once a week, would be
that's
fine.
enough.
Because their metabolism slows down so much.
Oh yeah, and we find when we've got them under anaesthetic, sometimes they'll breathe like once a minute or something.
Yeah,
won't they? It's not much.
Yeah.
So
so that's lots of stuff on tortoises. I don't think we're going to temperature ranges too much.
No, we've got the care sheets if you want them, but they basically need to have a basking area which is much hotter. I think normally between sort of 30, 38 degrees.
Yeah, so I tend to aim for 35.
And then they need a cooler end where they can go and sort of cool off. Normally somewhere where they can like dig and just have a bit of a get into the soil.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in between. And then the thing with the UK as well is a lot of people turn off the heat and things overnight. Yeah. But quite often, I think most of them, it's about 17 degrees, isn't it? If it's going below that, it's too cold, which in a lot of our houses...
Depends a little bit on the individual and the species, but yes. Yeah, and I think that's something that I get a lot of people to do as homework, pretty much every tortoise owner and reptile owner in general. I'll send them away to get up at 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning to measure temperatures so that we know that that's the coldest part of the night and check that it's okay.
And I just think, if you think... They don't always look to tortoises as if they feel things like we do, but they can feel heat, they can feel cold, and imagine it. Just know what you're like in the winter if it's really cold, and they're like that. It could be like that all year round if they're not at the right temperatures. I'm always cold, so I feel for the tortoises.
You empathise with them. Got compassion for the tortoises.
I definitely have. It makes me so grumpy as well if I'm cold.
Dougie's currently asleep on my lap. Honey Dougie, although he's just disturbed a bit as Becky's got up. Hey Dougie. So we're very much hoping that Dougie's going to grow up into a handsome breeding boy. So he was just what we were hoping for. It was a rubbish situation with Buttons, but we wanted a nice little handsome Billy kid, and that's what we've got, which is very nice.
I've woke him up a little bit now. He looks so happy.
I know. He just thinks that, like, people are his parents, hey?
He's gorgeous. He's been running around this morning, like just investigating and looking around everything. They're just so fun. Matey. It must be so nice having them all out in the garden now.
Yeah, we have the 3 kids just zooming up and down the garden. In the mornings while I milk Esther, I let her 2 kids out to run around with Dougie. And he's definitely appreciating having the company as well. In that, because he was in the shed with Mickey, and Mickey was starting to get a bit annoyed with him, because Dougie wanted to play with him and jump on him and stuff.
And Mickey was being really disgusting and eating his poo.
Yeah.
Eating Dougie's poo right from his bottom.
Like straight from his bum. Should we put that? We'll put that video on the YouTube one, shall we? It's disgusting. I haven't shared that on socials because Emily was like, you can't share that.
Yeah. I love it. And the thing with Mickey is if he has too much fibre, he sometimes gets bunged up.
There's not a lot of fibre in like
so, I suppose he's having the milk,
he was just
isn't
having
he?
milk.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So he's good at the moment.
Yeah. Well, he's not.
Once
to be fair,
stops eating hay, then
poor Mickey's like, well, he's in prison at the moment essentially. So normally he has the run of the shed, but with Dougie in there, Mickey had just started weeing anywhere in the shed and pooing anywhere in the shed, and weeing in the shed, like if it's raining outside, he'll wee on his bed, which is just really annoying and disgusting and makes him smell like wee.
He's such a grub.
But then he started pooing in the shed as well.
Oh, no.
So now he's got like a tiny little bit, just the flap comes into the shed, and he's just got a little like tiny corner with his bed in, so that he literally just got his bed and he can go outside. So just to re-toilet train him really, because then he might still wee on his bed, but I think it's less likely if he's not got the space.
He's so lazy, and it is warmer outside now because it's normally when it's raining and cold,
this time of year in the daytime he just likes sunbathing out in the garden. We just lie in the sun all day. Yeah, he just loves it.
Life, isn't it?
Yeah, so he's not too worried. And he because he used to be in the house, he used to have a little cage by the front door, but because of his slightly leaking bum, he just didn't have the full run of the house because of the carpet and stuff, and we never really like to sit on the sofa, so he'd never just be like in with us.
No.
And then he was annoying because in winter months, like he'd ask to go out all the time, then he'd ask to come in all the time, and it was just driving Emily mad. So she was like, "This is it."
Yeah, and it was awful sometimes with his bottom, because he did it here once on the reception. It was during COVID, wasn't it? So we had the screen up, and he had a bum explosion, and it was flicked it all everywhere. Over the screen and everything. Yeah. But everyone just still loves him. Because
I know,
just so
he looks
sweet.
really cute, but no one realises how disgusting he is.
He's
so
well.
grotty.
Yeah,
so grotty.
And if he used to come and stay with me, he used to wear a nappy.
His bum's much better nowadays.
It's so much better, isn't it? Yeah.
We've got his diet crats, and he doesn't scavenge in the same way as what he used to.
No.
He used to just pick up everything, and he doesn't tend to do that nowadays. So I don't know if we talked about his story on the podcast before.
No, I don't think we have actually.
So he will be...
He was our first handover, I think.
I think he was.
No,
I think Dell was actually. Dell the Spaniel, I think she was the first handover, maybe.
Did I already have Mickey?
Did I already have Mickey?
Because we'd only been open a few weeks. Because I remember it was a Sunday.
Yeah.
And then you bought him, and then we're like, oh, we'll do an anaesthetic on him. And he was so tiny. So
he was presented. So we had some puppies come in for vaccinations. And Mike, no, they're already chipped, vaccinations. And the breeder came in and said, I've got a problem with this one. Can we look at this one first? I was like, oh, okay. So these tiny little white fluffy things. And he was tiny.
He was, He would fit in 2 hands.
Yeah. And essentially he just had a big cavernous wound where his bum should have been. So what I think happened was he probably had a rectal prolapse, which his mum bit off, or he just never developed a proper bottom. Yeah. The breeder wanted to give him a chance, but didn't want to have the risk of an incontinent dog. Yeah. So she was quite happy to sign him over to us to see what we could do.
I love an incontinent dog.
Yeah, definitely have that. So we had him signed over, and what that means is, so we have a form where we go through like a transfer of ownership into our care, and we pay £1 for the patient. So what that means is that then animals being property, if we've bought them, someone can't come back and demand to have them back.
Yeah, because we've bought
them. And we don't really give any updates or anything afterwards. It keeps it really clear cut. So bought him for £1, and then we operated on him that afternoon, didn't we? So I had to find where his rectal tissue was, his gut, and draw it back out and attach it back onto the skin.
And I had to try and keep him warm. It was like a tiny Mickey with like a heated bed and then like piles of blankets all over him.
So tiny.
Because it was quite a long anaesthetic as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. And we x-rayed as well just to make sure there wasn't any pelvic deformities and stuff, just because there was some suspicion he didn't have a proper bum in the first place. And then he didn't look back really, did he? It healed really well.
Yeah.
The thing with puppies is so robust.
Yeah.
I think some people with surgery on young animals get really worried about it, but honestly they recover so well.
Yeah, if you can keep them warm, because that's the only thing, because they're small, they've got a high surface area, so they lose heat, but as long as you can keep them warm once they're asleep and keep them hydrated for their kidneys, they just recover so well.
So he went home with you that night, didn't he?
Yeah.
And did a little poo within a few hours, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then the first year of his life was a literal nightmare because he was such a scavenger.
And poo was just either leaking out or then he was getting blocked up if he had too much fibre.
Like 13 anaesthetics, I think it was, in his first year of life.
And you had to remove an anal gland, didn't you?
And we had to take an anal gland out as well. But to be fair, touch on wood here we go. He's been very good really for a number of years.
The last 2 or 3 times he stayed with me, he hasn't needed a nappy or anything and hasn't had any accidents.
No, he's pretty good.
He's really good. It's like a mix of getting his diet right and then he's on
so he's on
a stool softener as well.
So he's on some lactulose to keep his poo a bit soft, and he's on like a weight loss with quite a high fibre diet.
Because that's the other thing, he will get fat as well, won't he? Just to add into the mix if he would eat everything you let him. Yeah,
so he's on quite a restricted diet to keep his weight down. But no, he's really happy, really healthy. Yeah. He's lovely. He loves everybody, loves people, doesn't he?
He's got such a character now, though, hasn't he? Because he doesn't like being groomed or bathed. He'll let you do it. It's fine,
let me do it.
Just the face on him when you do it.
Yeah.
He lets you know, and he just
miserable.
Stares at you.
Yeah. But no, I put a lot of effort in when he was little because of the type of coat that he's got to get him used to being groomed and washed and everything. And to be fair, when he was little, there were some times where it was just a case of I had to just force him, no, we're going to groom you, Mickey. Yeah. It just had to be done. But actually, he's
a Cavachon, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a Cavalier cross Bichon, so he's got one of those coats that will just grow and grow.
Yeah.
But he's very, very good. Yeah, he's really, really good. Like, he doesn't find it distressing. He just doesn't like it.
Yeah, he doesn't like it. He lets you know by just like looking at you.
Yeah, he just gives you evil looks.
And does a big sighs when you try and like dry his feet off. He's like, ugh.
Yeah. The only bit he doesn't really stay still for is doing around his mouth.
Yeah.
Just because it's quite sensitive. But I do clip him really short because he likes to eat poo and stuff.
Yeah.
It just all gets in his coat.
Just keep him clean.
And because he goes running with me, although to be fair, because I'm doing so many workouts, I'm not running at the moment. Trying to reserve some energy, but
I think he probably likes that.
Yeah, I think he does.
He likes having a little break when he
although
comes with me.
Emily started running actually.
Oh,
Emily started running with the dogs.
Oh,
yeah. So
that's where he's going. So yeah, he likes to have like when he comes to stay with me, he likes to have a few days off, and then he's like, "Oh, come on, then let's go again." He thinks he likes it to start with, and then he's like, "Oh no."
No, he's quite an active little thing actually. He loves climbing as well. Got some videos of him climbing around in the trees with the kids.
Yeah, he likes it when I take him over Belmont Pools because there's like a tree that they've cut down, and for the kids they've made it into like a climbing frame. And he likes getting up there.
Yeah, he quite likes stuff like that. I think he knows he gets a reward for it.
Yeah,
like he does it because he knows that he gets like told he's a good boy. He gets a treat. Like, I'm not sure he actually enjoys the act of it. I think he just like it's all for food and fuss.
He likes the tree.
Yeah.
Oh, he's lovely.
But yeah, no, he's a good boy. And Fern's coming in for a surgery tomorrow, so she's having a metal implant out. So she had her leg fixed a while ago now, June last year. But it's just been on and off, not quite right, and we think there's some infection around the implant. So
we've re-x-rayed her, haven't we?
Yeah, re-x-rayed her a few months ago, and she responded to antibiotics. So Matt is coming back in tomorrow to take it out.
It's like all of your animals are.
I know.
Just get them all in.
We've got Rose sort out a stone. We've got Priscilla just do a health check. I think we might end up doing a dental on her, just to warn you. And then Bubble for bloods. Fernie's her implant out. And then I've got Charlotte and Daisy, the guinea pigs, that need spaying as well.
Yeah.
I think then that's us pretty much under control.
They're all under control.
Until something else happens. Well, hopefully in the next couple of weeks I've got those jackdaws arriving.
Oh, that'll be nice to see what they're like.
So they may well need health checks. I'll just see what they're like when they arrive.
Yeah. That is the thing with working here. You never know what you're going to get. It's nice.
No.
Turn up and he's got a goat that he's bringing in, and then we've got a hedgehog to do a dental on.
keeps it interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Priscilla might not need a dental, but she's ancient for a hedgehog now.
Yeah.
I'm not actually exactly sure how old she is, but I think she's 6 or 7 years old. I've certainly had her for, I don't know, maybe 4 years.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it will be 4 years, if not longer. Actually, might
might
even be longer.
Arthritis medication or something.
I'm going to X-ray her today as well. So bless her. So we'll see what she's doing.
It's just been busy, hasn't it? Really.
Yeah, it's been really busy. I'm very tired at the moment. I'm feeling a little bit burnt out.
You're working a lot of hours.
Yeah, I'm doing every night on call, aren't I? And I've got every other Wednesday off and every 6th Sunday off.
Because we've got a bit of a gap at the moment because Natasha has left and started her new job. And so
she's enjoying it. She popped in to say hello the other day, didn't she?
Yeah, she looks really happy. So it means that we've got Kate, who's our part-time vet, and then we've got Beth, who's a new graduate vet, but coming on
she's so
fast.
great. Yeah, really good.
She's fab, but it's not fair for her to be here a lot of time on her own.
No.
So
Kate likes the support as well. So it's just a bit of a skills gap at the moment. So I'm having to put a lot of hours in, but that's fine. And it's just been stressful times with the Yoni situation with the goats, and then having to sort out all the track, which hopefully I've got 6 tons of sand coming on Wednesday. 6 tons. Spent like 850 quid on sand.
Can they drive up and spread it, or it'll just be in a big
it comes
pile?
in 6
in
bags. Actually, no, sorry, it's not 6 tons. It's 6 bags of 850 kilograms, so it's not quite 6 tons.
Nearly, it's not that much less.
So no, I need to talk very nicely to Dad, see if we'll use the telehandler to take it up,
and then just cut the bags.
Well, I don't know because you can't get round. There's going to be a lot of wheelbarrow. But also, what we're going to, and then we need to order a pallet of shavings as well, because we're going to put shavings on the track so it goes into all the gaps and sand on top.
Oh, okay, yes.
So I'll do a little video on that because
that'd be quite interesting.
I'm quite pleased with how the track's coming together. I think it'd be quite good. But that's been a lot of work. And then getting the aviary sorted.
It's a lot of physical work, isn't it?
Yeah, getting the aviary sorted, ready for these jackdaws. I'm looking forward to having that all planted and nice.
Yeah.
Just been sad looking at it since Ozzy died last year.
It'd be nice
and being half finished. So it'd be nice to see it done
And the
have something
jackdaws
in
will
it.
definitely be cheeky, won't they?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Oh, big stretch, Dougie. And then we've got 2 goat shows, but I had an admin error because, I think I may have mentioned this on the podcast before. I've been referred to as being disorganised but resourceful enough to make up for it. Yeah. So I'm definitely disorganised. And the 2 goat shows we booked, and now we've got time and everything, and people covering for me.
We're actually managed to get 2 locums.
Yeah, they're too close together from a movement point of view. Because with livestock, you've got to have a clearance between movements.
Oh, no.
So we'll get home from the one show on the Monday, and that means we wouldn't be able to transport goats again until the following Monday.
Oh, and
but
you need to go
we
on
need
the
to go on
Sunday.
the Saturday evening we're going up there.
Okay.
So what we're having to now is create an isolation unit.
You didn't tell me this.
So that we need to.
I know, Dougie, it's terrible.
Ridiculous. So we need to create an isolation unit and have that signed off, so that then we can legally do the 2 movements for the goats. So I've got to create. We've got the shed out in the fields. We've got a separate garden shed that we put up in the autumn. But now I just need to make some hard standing around it and some fence around it. And we've got an inspection booked on the 14th to come and inspect it. And then we'll have to have cleaning utensils. It needs foot dips. We'll need separate wheelbarrow, separate access.
That's mad.
Yeah. I have
But we've
I have a
worked
plan.
so hard to get cover and get it all planned, haven't we? To go to the 2 goat shows.
Well, also the one goat show I'm helping organise. It's like a slight cop out. I've organised some of it, but other people have organised bits as well. But I, in theory, have been organising it. Yeah. So I'd sort of want to and need to go to that. Yeah. And that's the only one that the boys can go to. So I want to see if Apollo can win it again. He's won it twice before. It was cancelled last year, so I want to see if he can win it 3 times in a row.
No pressure for Apollo.
Yeah. And then the other show we're hoping is going to be quite a big show for the English goats, because it's in Rutland, which is relatively central. So it's quite a drive for us, but the people on the east can get there as well. There's loads of breeders on the east that are really keen on showing. There's all the people in the west need to pull their act together and do it a bit more. It's just me. So I'm hoping that we can have a good lineup and actually put our goats. Yeah, I want to put Esther to the test really against other English goats, because she's the star girl for us. So I want to see how she performs. And it's just fun to out. Yeah. Well, obviously I do a podcast. I can talk to people all day about the goats and animals and stuff. I will literally just stand there all day and talk to people about the goats and really enjoy it. So
this is like me talking about nutrition and poo.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll manage to sort out the isolation unit. We should have enough time. It's just getting it. Yeah, getting it together. Something else I need to get sorted. So I think I've got all the resources to hand.
At least you've got
to
it there
to
then
do
as
with
well.
it. Yeah. And just had a brainwave. If I'm getting a refrigeration unit, I hope Emmy doesn't listen to this podcast.
Just use that.
Well, I might then, because the trouble is we need a 3 metre distance from other livestock as well, so including our own goats. But actually what I might do is create the tortoise enclosure up there as well, and that can be in between the 2 paddocks. So that the 3 metre gap can be filled with tortoises is what I'm thinking. Essentially. I think that might work.
A good idea,
yeah. But yeah, watch this space.
That sounded you another job because you've got to go on and then get that refrigeration unit.
We'll see. But also getting slightly carried away because we're hoping to move. We set ourselves a 2-year deadline. We want to move. We want to buy our own place in 2 years. Because I think financially, hopefully, we'll be in a position that might be doable. Yeah. But then also I'm one of the sort of people that I like to do everything all at once at the same time. And I'm too impatient, so that's why we have all the aviaries and talk about getting a refrigeration unit for the tortoises and stuff like that, just to give you more stuff to move when you move out. Just gives more stuff to move, but I like to enjoy life as we do it. I don't know. I think particularly with the goats and taking Apollo out to stud and stuff and meeting loads of lovely people. Also meet loads of people where they've waited and saved their entire lives to end up in a position where they can then do what they want to do. And I don't want to be that person. No. I'd rather be slightly poor for the entire life and spend the entire time just doing it and enjoying it.
Everyone always says, you're always on holiday, but you never know what's going to happen, do you? And we enjoy it, and it de-stresses.
Whereas I'd rather spend money on sand and on the track.
Yeah.
The track was a big investment. That was a lot of money, but
hopefully in the long run it's.
Well, also we can lift it all up.
Yeah, and take it with
so
you.
all the slabs. Obviously, the sand is pouring money into the ground, but the slabs will be able to lift them all up. Yeah, so when we do move, it'll be
just the thought of you moving
a big undertaking.
I feel like we're going to close for 2 days and they'll all just be coming.
Yeah, so that was 6 pallets of the slabs. So each slab weighs 7.5 kilograms, and there's 140 on a pallet. So I don't know how much that comes to, but yeah, so
that's mad. We'll be asking for volunteers when you move.
Like a few ton of slabs to move. Well, a few ton of slabs have already moved and already laid.
Jeez.
And then we'll have to lift them all up.
Yeah. Oh, I just don't think about it yet.
I'm quite excited for it, actually. I would like to have a time when we can move properly and have a proper setup of
and it's yours and you can
aviaries
do everything you want with it. And you can have people visit.
Yeah, we can have people visit. Nice. So we're so lucky. We're very privileged with where we live, and because we rent from my parents, and we do pay rent, but like a discounted rate. We're very lucky, but there's certain limitations that we don't really get on brilliantly, and they don't like having people around. So we want to have people to visit, but
and you'd like to have it as sort of like a business where people have experience.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of well, like, I want the animals to start paying for themselves a bit more as well.
It makes sense. And
because
they easily could.
Well, also that means that I am getting to a stage where I would like to employ someone we don't have anywhere near the money to it nowadays, but to employ someone to come and do some of the cleaning out and stuff like that.
Oh, Joe.
And do and make
enrichment. Joe? Send your CV.
But like make enrichment stuff and like it's amazing how much gardening it takes in the aviaries, like just the upkeep.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy all that.
Yeah.
But realistically, with this business, I'm always going to be needed here for a lot of hours. So
that's true. Yeah. Sam, my nephew, came round to help with the shed this week and said, your garden's like a rainforest, but in a good way. Because it's just, it's a wild garden.
I think if your garden's a rainforest, mine's probably more like a savanna, because it's like grazed bare by the rabbits.
Yeah.
And the tortoise.
It is, everything we've put in is like
the aviaries are more rainforesty, to be fair. Jack's aviary, I'm quite pleased with it. It's nice.
And it just has to look after itself, because we're not that good at gardening, but we like to have the wildlife. So it's
There's loads of tadpoles in the bath in Jack's aviary.
Still haven't hatched.
Have they not?
No.
Mine have just hatched.
Yeah, Dad's have been out for ages now. He's
but so Jack's and the pigeons and the chickens are still indoors, but it's nice enrichment for Jack when he goes back out in the aviary because he fishes for tadpoles.
Yeah.
It's proper survival of the fittest if any froglets escape there, but. And he's really clever. He's worked out that if he drags the weed out, the tadpoles get caught up in it.
Oh, no, easier to catch.
So in the summer you can see where he's dragged all the weed out of the pond, and it's all on the edges, and he picks the tadpoles out of it.
Keeps the weed under control as well, so that can go a bit crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just nice having the sunshine back.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's so much better. I think everyone here is.
I've not seen much of it.
Change. No, it makes you a bit sad when you're here, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
You see the change in everyone here. The sun comes out, I think.
It's spring and summertime. And I always find it funny where we live in like a temperate sort of climate like we do, that I find in winter months it's hard to imagine what summer is like.
Yes.
And in summer it's hard to imagine what winter is like.
Yeah.
Like when it's like 30 plus degrees in summer, imagining it being minus 10.
Yeah. And even though it happens every year.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, I love this time of year. And when you see all the flowers coming out and the daffodils and you think, at last.
Right. I need to feed Dougie. We'll have people arriving soon,
I've got
won't
a
we?
patient coming in who we saw yesterday.
Yeah, hopefully he's eating.
So I'm hoping he's eaten because he was dribbling and felt
not mention him because I don't want to curse him with a mention on the podcast.
We always say, don't we? We don't have favourites, but there's another one we've mentioned that's one of our favourites.
Yeah, he's a favourite.
We do have favourites because you have some that just spend so much time here with you, or they have a lot of problems. He's lovely.
Okay, cool. We need to get some more guests lined up. I need to email the goshawk person.
I'm going to speak to Vale, but then I have realised that it might be waiting until Jess starts to go there because it.
I don't know. We can go on a morning when Kate's here, can't we? Yeah, like we did at Wildside. That'd be fine. Yeah.
I didn't know just because it's a bit further.
No, I'd get something in the diary.
Yeah, I'll message Vale.
It's not that far
and
from
we're
here.
Going back.
That'd be like an hour from here.
Hour and a half, I think.
It'd be an hour and a half, would
I
it?
think so. I'm sure it is.
I thought it was Tewkesbury.
Oh no, maybe it's a bit less than that. Maybe like an hour and 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was closer.
And maybe it's closer from your house as well.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. If it's
Anyway, I'll message them. And then we're back at Wildside, aren't we, the end of the month?
yes, we are. Yeah,
Which is exciting.
I need to bother Nick again. He's a farm vet. I need to get him on.
Yes, we'd like some large animal
Yeah.
stuff.
Be interesting.
Good.
Okay, cool. Let's wrap up, shall we?
Yeah.
I need to
He's
feed
been
Dougie.
so good.
I know, he's been really, really good. He's fast asleep again now.
I think he's really enjoyed it.
Oof, to wake you up. Big stretch.
Oh, stretch.
Right, so yeah, thank you for listening. This has been the Vet with Pets podcast. I've been Elliot.
I've been Becky.
And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.